There's a lot of people who always say this phrase, COVID is over. No, COVID is not over, because COVID really was not just about the variant, was just not about the virus. It was about everything else that comes with it. The lockdowns, the masks, the QR codes, the CBDCs that they want to usher in. So, the shutdowns of the economy. There's so much more that goes into play when it comes to the COVID variant. Now, we have a friend of the show. Well, he's played a lot on the show, Mr. Dr. Campbell. So I got a great video from Dr. Campbell, and then we'll go over it. I'm going to probably stop it a couple times, but take a listen to what Mr. Campbell has to say. New information coming out of Great Britain. Check it out.
Well, warm welcome to today's talk, Saturday, the 19th of August. Now, of course, there's nothing to see here, but in the United Kingdom, at least, the revolving door between Big Pharma and government continues to spin. And I don't think you're quite squeaky clean on this in the United States either. But I was actually genuinely taken aback by today's story. Let me give you some details on it now. So this is from Jonathan Van Tam, who was our Deputy Chief Medical Officer. If you live in the UK, of course, you'll recognise him straight away. Boris Johnson referred to him as a JVT, bit of a personality in the pandemic, it has to be said. Now, there's the references there, although you could get this from many, many different sources. Now, strangely, and it really is quite strange, this was actually announced via LinkedIn, as far as I can tell today. So the appointment was made in early May, and we now know what is 19th of August. So why the delay? We don't know, but it was actually announced on LinkedIn, which you're probably familiar with if you've ever looked for a job online. On the Moderna LinkedIn, UK former Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Senior Strategy Advisor in Medicine, Nottingham University. Strange job, Strategy Advisor in Medicine. I can't say I've ever studied under a Professor of Strategy Advisor in Medicine, but never mind. Now, as of the 2nd of May, Senior...
And I just want to say really briefly, too, as well. Even though Great Britain, in the UK, Boris Johnson used to brag about, we're ending our protocols first. We're the ones who are leading out of the Five Eyes countries, the Australias, the New Zealands, the United States, Canada, and then Great Britain. They would brag about this stuff, that they're ending these protocols, that they're listening to the people. But you know what? Behind the scenes, they were still advertising and trying to get people to come in and fill these positions as like COVID czars of sorts. So publicly, they were saying that they were stopping these protocols, but the sausage being made in the background, always about keeping this going. It never has stopped, whether it be making laws here in the United States or hiring people behind the scenes for COVID czar positions. It has never stopped. They never intended it to stop. That's why when we heard the information from Alex Jones last week that came true over the weekend, it was no surprise to some of us, because we knew that was just the beginning of this malarkey, not the end.
Medical consultant to the COVID-19 vaccine manufacturer Moderna, was a member of the government task force during the pandemic.
Wait, what, Kurt?
Well, don't say something you can't take back, Craig. Malarkey? Well, let's watch our language.
Well, it's a malarkey show today.
Well, calm down. And you can't go 5 minutes without bringing up sausage?
Gotcha. I am going to make some good gravy, though. You're going to love it. Turkey meatballs. Watch.
Made all decisions, this is the government task force, made all decisions on vaccine supply contracts and major investment in manufacturing and clinical opportunities. And as always, the references are there. Now, of course, no one's saying that Professor Van Tam anticipated this job in Moderna or kept his slate clean with the vaccine manufacturers to facilitate this in the future. But it really doesn't look good at all, I don't think. I genuinely don't think he did those things, but it's not at all a good look. This revolving door, really, something needs to be done about this, because Big Pharma and government are kind of, sometimes the relationship's a bit cozier than you and me would like. And of course, it's often said that a profession is a conspiracy against the rest of us.
What do you think about that comment? I mean, the conflict of interest in this, whether it be in the United States or the UK, it seems like somebody from the FDA used to work at Pfizer, or somebody who used to work at Moderna is now working for the FDA.
Well, what's wrong with that? It's just expertise. The main thing is you got to listen to experts. That's what I would say to Dr. John Campbell. And Jimmy likes him and plays him a lot. I would say he's friend of the show because I think he doesn't respond to coming on.
Yeah.
But at some point he probably... Because it looks like a guy who really was going out of his way not to be conspiratorial and just looking at the data, and it keeps pulling him in a direction that is horrifying to him.
Yeah.
And, he's
a guy that brought information that he wished wasn't true. all the time.
Yeah.
But yet he felt the need to have to break it to actually explain what's going on. I thought he was some of the best when it came to other therapeutics or other tests, whatnot. The way he would do it with his little monitor. I know why Jimmy plays him a lot, because he's very
a bunch of these doctors,
easy to understand and digest.
We had Jay Bhattacharya on, right? And these guys. One of the main things I learned from this show is like these people that have a lot of expertise and they're pretty high up and respected, and then suddenly they're fringe out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They didn't know either how anything worked.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like you think, oh, these smarter people know how the whole thing works. No, it's compartmentalized like a black box project. It's stovepiped.
Yeah.
Every element of society is stovepiped. So then when you're like, oh, I assume someone's handling their end, then you look into it. Nope, no one is.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because also mentioning what you said there too as well, when it came to my coverage on the combo couch of a lot of the COVID protocols, what I did was I went and looked these doctors up before COVID, and I looked at their history with their patients when it came to McCullough, Zelenko, Dr. With the WebMD stuff. And all of them had top ratings from their patients.
Right.
All Dr. Richard Orso, amazing. Dr. Ryan Cole, all these guys, Dr. Corey, high ratings. But as soon as COVID hit, they're a quack.
Let's carry on with what we know. Now, the UK government, of course, under the auspices of this grouping, with Professor Van Tam in it, we bought 77 million doses of Moderna vaccine. And I can't remember the price, but I'm sure Moderna was consistently the most expensive vaccine. And we bought 77 million doses. Way more than the population of the entire population of the country. But that's what we
got to make that extra money.
At this point, we'll just have a look at a couple of other clips, just in case you can't remember who Jonathan Van Tam was.
We need people to take it. This vaccine isn't going to help you if you don't take it. And you will need 2 doses of this vaccine and most of the others to have full protection. Watching others take it and hoping that this will then protect you isn't going to work necessarily. We don't know if this vaccine will prevent transmission.
He said we don't know if it's going to prevent transmission, but you got to take it for it to work. Not for nothing, Kurt. This is a bunch of malarkey.
That's their Peter Hotez. Not very good.
Yeah, that's a bunch of malarkey.
Listen, you need a Rachel Maddow,
somebody more convincing.
Delivery. And maybe Pharma's not paying him personally enough because they have that socialized medicine quackery over there.
Well, they had their own, I forgot her name, Liz Truss. She ran and she was like the president for, a head of lettuce lasted longer than her presidency and stuff like that. So they did try that Rachel Maddow avenue, but it didn't work for them.
Because he's not even promising you. So he goes, oh, you're not going to be protected if you don't take it, and other people take it.
And we can't say it's going to stop transmission, too.
What if I do take it? Will I be protected then? Or only if the guy that didn't take it took it?
Hospital beds.
They have socialized medicine.
Hospital beds.
Yeah, right.
That's what we're fighting for here. I'm going to play a little bit more of this one.
Threat is from our current virus. And there is now plenty of evidence that the vaccines that we are deploying are effective against our current virus.
How old is this?
That's a lie. This is fairly new.
So he's saying the old vaccines work on the new variant?
That's what he's literally trying to say that. And we understand this. When I spoke to Dr. Ryan Cole about this, he says trying to create a vaccine for a coronavirus is like playing whack-a-mole. Because as soon as you go to hit it, that thing's going down and it's popping up somewhere else.
It sounds like a flu shot.
Because it's going to mutate.
It sounds like a flu shot. Is a flu shot a vaccine? I don't know what a vaccine is, or a woman, or violent. I don't know what anything means. So you got to really speak slow to me.
Well, listen, all I know it's safe and effective. So I'm going to continue to play this. Safe and effective, that vaccine is.
So from that perspective, look, please don't delay if you're called. Take the advantage to protect yourself against the clear and present danger, against the immediate threat.
So I hope that's refreshed your memory.
Wait, hold on a minute. Are we positive that guy we just saw is not the same guy from Hawaii that wouldn't turn on the siren?
That is not the guy.
And he's doing like a character?
I did double check that. They are not the same guy.
He might be Mike Myersing this government.
Let's take a look.
77 million vaccines. And the UK government's just struck a 10-year deal partnership with Moderna to build a new factory. Now, this is near Oxford.
What does that say? that they struck a 10-year friggin' deal. They're not really serious about this shit anyways.
That they didn't read the statistics and see Pfizer was the better bet?
Yeah. No, that one. That one.
I took Pfizer.
Maybe they'll bring Johnson & Johnson back on the scene. I say get one shot instead of two.
So if you get a 10-year contract or partnership, I mean, that's got to be a contract, right?
Yeah.
So,
it means you're not. It was never ever about public health. It was always about
you committed.
Bling, bling.
You committed to 10 years without. This is a at best, and it is great, the vaccine obviously, but it was rushed.
Safe and effective.
It was approved by emergency. You wouldn't normally approve it.
Emergency use authorization.
And you said we're going to do a 10-year billion-pound, so double American money partnership
of sorts
with this one. We don't even know how it's going to turn out. We're already committed for 10 years.
But Kurt, when you're trusting in a name, when you work with a brand and it works, you stick with that brand.
This is like when Disney bought Star Wars and it ran it into the ground a little bit.
Well,
I believe it's being built at the moment. So the British government is in bed with Moderna to the tune of £1 billion as far as we know. And this new facility will build mRNA vaccines for COVID, influenza, and respiratory syncytial virus, as far as we know. And the UK government is tied in for 10 years with this and committed to buy vaccines for 10 years into the future. Quite incredible.
From the weapons manufacturer, Moderna, linked to DARPA.
Weapons?
Moderna's linked to DARPA. That's where they got their research from. That's where they got their
I would expect a better quality Pfizer-level vaccine then.
Yes.
They're all great, but Moderna, that shows you what a rinky-dink country the UK is, because only $1 billion, just $1 billion. And also Moderna, not even Pfizer, the one that's like way second place.
It is second place, but maybe they're throwing in some weapons too with the vaccine that we don't know about that they'll give them behind the closed doors. But only $1 billion.
America, that's how you know Moderna didn't do too well here, because they're like, you could do the British market.
Yeah. Well, Moderna did do better than Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson.
The one that was recalled, even though it's great and there was no problem with it, they recalled it weirdly.
And Trump brought the freaking Johnson & Johnson family up on stage with him at an event when he started. That's how much of a donkey this guy is, too,
and he still didn't get his credit.
Operation Warp Speed, Kurt.
Yeah, he should have got his name on the checks and his name on the vaccines.
He could get him in a box with his signature. Yeah. Let's finish up this video. Hold on.
Well, we've committed £1 billion to buy these vaccines into the future with no evidence of safety or efficacy of the RSV and the influenza vaccine for sure, and very questionable safety of the COVID vaccines. And yet, have £1 billion. If it doesn't work out, then we'll still buy the vaccines anyway. What is going on here? You know, this is just very, 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 very strange.
Strange.
Committed to buy Moderna's vaccines for the next decade from this new factory. Now, if you're sitting in Australia, don't be smug about it, because I think it's just outside Melbourne. I'm pretty sure it's Melbourne. Certainly in Australia, there's a Moderna plant being built to produce I can't remember, 100 million doses of vaccine a year, I think it was. I think the Oxford plant is scheduled to build 250 million doses a year. The Australia plant, 100 million doses. There's also a plant in Canada, a new Moderna plant, to construct 100 million doses of Moderna vaccine in Canada. And of course, that's on top of the huge capacity already in the United States. So this is Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States, all seem to be putting a lot of eggs, shall we say, in the Moderna messenger ribonucleic acid vaccine basket. Let's carry on.
Before we carry on, too, as well, let me just say this much, that it was not even just on the back end which they're doing these deals right now, which Dr. Campbell is alerting us to, the fact that we have a 10-year deal to buy Moderna vaccines for Great Britain. I believe, and Andrew, if you can see if you could find that clip, I think it was Albert Bourla, I believe he is the CEO of Moderna, when he was saying a year before, they produced almost a couple million vaccines a year before the COVID-19.
What?
Let's see if we can find that clip. But I mean,
no wonder they were better.
Dude, they give you all the information, Kurt. Like, they put it right in front of your friggin' face. How dumb do they think we are?
It's not dumb. You compartment it. So this guy, I love watching him, like, where he's like, this can't be true. Just how you described it.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, like, what are his thoughts about, all the stuff we cover on here? Like, what, they just throw $1 billion and say, here, have it, to Moderna? Well, what do you think they do with Ukraine, dude? Do you not notice a correlation? Everybody's like a specialist and you're like trained not to see the big thing of, like, this is a modest expenditure compared to what they throw around on nonsense.
Do you think, Kurt, do you think he's saying it because he doesn't believe it himself, or he's trying to like kind of he's trying to project to you that you, the people out there that I'm bringing this information to, you should think this is crazy. You should be standing up.
I think he's showing his real feelings.
I think that's what he's doing.
I don't think he's real.
But he's also kind of like implying that if I think this is crazy, that you should think this is nuts.
Yeah, it's coming through.
Yeah.
But I think that his genuine feelings, again, this guy has not come on Jimmy's show at all. He's not a friend of the show, even though Jimmy plays him. I mean, he doesn't come on the show.
Yeah.
But that indicates to me that this guy's in the respectable sphere and is slowly, like when I watch Joy, what's her name on The Hill with Robbie?
Joy, Brianna Joy Gray.
Brianna Joy Gray. I like her, and I like seeing her gradually realize stuff she probably should have realized a while back with Bernie.
Yeah, yeah.
But you could see it on them. These people live in Washington. They're like, it can't be as bad as all that. And they just continually see it is.
Yeah.
And then they got to go, well, how do I get this across to people? Because I don't know if people in my clique are emotionally ready to hear this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
They all do it, but I think he's straight up. I don't think he's faking anything.
Let's take a look, too. I think that was the end of that video.
So government's committed to buy all this stuff.
A little bit more.
Now, going back to Jonathan Van Tam, his advisory fee for Moderna has not been disclosed.
Ooh.
Advisory fee. Nice
Where should it be?
But he is prohibited from
Personal
using privileged
business.
information from his time in government to further his business
That's some class,
interests.
Mr. Campbell.
Oh, that's all right then. I just thought there might be an issue here for a minute, but there's a rule says he's not allowed to use
Hey,
this.
now that's sarcasm.
By the way, too, we have a segment today. We're going to go over this conflict of interest. They never release this stuff. It's always out there. Like I said, this guy was the president of FDA. Now he's the CEO of Pfizer. That happens all over the place. The people they allow to come on to the news networks are all people who are connected in the inside. This is how they get this whole controlled management, narrative management, right?
All
This
of
is what
cable,
it is.
all of cable, which has been going downhill. I never watch cable. I watch streaming only. If I barely watch anything that isn't a YouTube summary as something they made on regular TV.
Yeah.
So it's being paid for almost entirely by remember the
Yes.
Anderson Cooper's salary news? What
Pharma.
I know,
Yeah.
I might have saw it could have been Brankin Points. I don't remember where I saw it, but most of cable, they're being paid for that's holding them up.
Yes.
All the channels.
Dude, the RFK story with Robert Ailes, the whole thing, why he wouldn't let him.
Who, Roger Ailes?
Roger Ailes, he wouldn't let, I said Robert Ailes. Roger Ailes, he wouldn't let him talk about these things. He tells that whole story because he says, this is the guy who's running Fox at the time. We can't because my sponsors, Pfizer, won't allow it.
And by the way, as much as this guy's cautious, and you could that little sarcasm at the end,
Yeah.
that's a guy trying to not be in the QAnon zone. That he's gonna be put in it, even though he's reasonable. He's gonna be called a QAnon, and so that's the only way you can get stuff out is sarcasm.
Yeah.
It's amazing to watch this. This is all of society at every level.
Yeah.
Watching it unravel.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Kurt. That last statement of yours, I think, is a little misogynist. I'm going to play
Why?
the rest of this. Well, it could be misogynist or racist or
Oh,
it would be some sort of ist. That,
It's QAnon adjacent to not believe in stuff.
QAnon adjacent.
Government knowledge for furthering his business interests. So that's all fine then, isn't it? Let's hope his brain is well compartmentalized. Now, Rose Whiffen, Transparency International UK. Currently, there are only threadbare safeguards against abuse of the revolving door between the public and private sector. And this created, she believes, a risk of privileged information being misused for commercial benefit.
No
one's making any accusations of this, of course, but you can see that the risk is apparent. There would appear to be a risk there. Now, this is Patrick Vallance, of course. He was the chief scientific officer during the pandemic. Now, he also went through the revolving door. Now, this is his official government site, so this is not me making it up. Check it out for yourself. This is official government information here. Government chief scientific officer, April 18 to April 2023. So, chief scientific officer throughout the pandemic. Hugely influential figure throughout the pandemic. He was president, research and development at GlaxoSmithKline, 2012 to 2017. Now, to be fair, we didn't use GlaxoSmithKline vaccines, but of course they are very much big pharma. that he worked for, and then went into government. Had been senior vice president at Moderna, Medicines Discovery and Development, joined the company in May 2006, head of drug discovery, worked his way up to become member of a board of GlaxoSmithKline board and the corporate executive team. Check out the references. Now, we don't know what his salary was for all of the years, but the last full year he worked for them, it was £4.4 million. He did sell most of his GlaxoSmithKline bonus shares before joining the government, but we believe he had £600,000 in these shares when in the government. And pay as chief scientific officer was slightly more reasonable.
By the way, I said Liz Truss for England was the president. I meant the prime minister. Excuse me, prime minister. You know, they have prime ministers over there. But what Mr. Campbell is saying now, Dr. Campbell is saying right now, he's laying it out and he's showing you the conflict of interest. The way it's just all a bunch of insiders. The same way it was here in the United States. Same fucking way, Kurt.
When he said, he made another little snarky comment where he's like, let's hope his brain is compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And he separates. I guarantee you, everybody in that office of the NHS and every level of government and corporations, all of them, all the employees in the company had to take an unconscious bias training class to get at their biases they didn't even know they had.
Yeah.
Of course, they're all about, people's racial hair color and style biases. Not the fact that you worked at a drug company and now work at the regulatory body. No training in unconscious bias about how that might be a problem.
Yeah.
Just nonsense things. And all of them, no, there's no bias. I can work fairly with this thing that is directly at odds with this other thing. It's amazing. It's a real trick they pull off.
It is. Yeah. I mean, this is all about social engineering. Really is in the mind, the way they kind of program people.
But again, you can see the concern here. People going from Big Pharma to government making the decisions, paying Big Pharma, people going from government into Big Pharma, making decisions about Big Pharma, then getting jobs in the same companies.
That's QAnon.
No.
I can't see any problem with that.
Nah. I mean, they're experts. They are in the know. Don't you want to take educated people who know things? So taking people from Big Pharma to governmental jobs that will influence the people on what to do, it makes a lot of sense.
Hey, Pasta,
nothing going on there.
I look at it this way. It's like when you flush without looking because you don't want to know. That's how I look at government and health. It's
not the way really we would like things to be held up as transparent, shall we say. Is the United States squeaky clean? Well, I'm not going to go into the United States now. I've spent enough time on this already, but that reference is from Science magazine. FDA's revolving door. Companies often hire agency staffers, that's Food and Drug Administration agency staffers, who manage their successful drug reviews. So, oh yeah, your drug's absolutely great, mate. Fantastic. Have $1 billion and we'll buy all your drugs. Oh, by the way, have you got any jobs? It's just, yeah. I mean, no one's saying that influenced their authorization of these medicines.
I say they will, and I will tell you in the United States they did. And it's because who's running things over here? Is it the government really running things and taking experts from Big Pharma because they want the right information to go out for the protection of the public health of the people? Or is it they got a narrative to explain? And who better than the people who are actually running things, which is Big Pharma, coming on and sending out their message for their narrative management themselves? What do you think?
What I would say, John Campbell, maybe if the UK wasn't stuck in the Stone Age of not directly advertising prescription drugs to people on TV to ask their doctor for, maybe things would be a little better for you and not as good as we have it in the States. The greatest country on earth.
You bring up an important point, Kurt. That's something that, it needs to go away day one. Remember when they eliminated you're old enough to maybe when they had cigarette commercials and they had to eliminate them? They had to take them off the air. They said, you can't do this because this is influencing people to do something bad.
What they learned? They learned if you say, don't smoke, it actually makes you smoke.
Is that what they learned?
Because you're making me think. All those cigarette, cigarettes are bad commercials that came out.
You're saying they're subliminally telling people to smoke. They were paid for by
cigarette companies as their restitution. And by the way, making them pay, the government was in on it. They had doctors on pushing cigarettes like it was a healthy, safe, effective booster.
Yes.
That's how they push cigarettes.
They did.
And also make sure you have 8 glasses of milk a day.
Well, I think they should eliminate those commercials right away. You know what I'm saying?
Why? Because you're like some kind of communist something, right?
Yeah, I'm one of those. whatever and stuff like that. The FDA expert to Biotech Insider, the drug industry thrives on the revolving door.
So does every other industry.
Yeah.
This is America. What, did we not learn anything?
And I got to think right here, this is from July 2018, FDA's revolving door. Companies often hire agency staffers who manage their successful drug reviews. Why not?
Now, is Science Magazine bragging about this or complaining? That's my question.
Well, this was done in 2018, right?
Oh, was this
So you can
before the
see.
takeover of it?
Yeah.
Because science went downhill real fast.
This was showing us beforehand they already knew how to, run these departments over here. This is from the Hill. The Big Pharma, the revolving door keeps spinning. Once again, 2019. And that's Gottlieb over there, right? That's your boy from Pfizer, who is now, I don't know if he's in the FDA board now or he's on Pfizer. I get confused when they go over here. It's like that Benny Hill. Remember that? And they keep on running in and running out. That's what it is. It's a revolving door. But who better, right, if you want to push your drug, than bring over somebody from the big pharma industry? And that's what they constantly do. Here's another one, right? 2021, Big Pharma's revolving door is imperiling democracy.
Not as much as that headline. I hope that was taken down.
Here's another one. DEA's failure to punish drug distributors blamed an opioid crisis raised revolving door questions. Because now it just wasn't with vaccines.
Ooh,
Beforehand, it was with these opioids.
This came out on my birthday.
All these people with the Sackler family, all this stuff with the opioids.
Who?
It happened before him. The Sackler family,
Hey, every liberal I know that was blathering about getting your... And I'm curious now. I bet less people will get the new boosters than I thought. Because a lot of them quit taking boosters. But every single one of them has seen the Sackler family documentary and how bad... I was hooked on that stuff.
Yeah.
And
you had experiences with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I chickened out at fentanyl. I couldn't... And this before fentanyl was a big thing. It's just all I could get my hands on eventually was a fentanyl patch. Before you heard about it in the news.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find a safe way to do it on Erowid or anything. I was like, I'm out. But just think about that opiate, the documentaries you saw.
Yes.
On the good, like the liberal channels. Yes. I don't know, your Netflix.
Same people that are involved in the COVID industry, right?
Hold it in your head.
Yes.
And now think, okay, the boosters, the safe effective boosters I took, let's say they weren't safe and effective, which they are, don't get me wrong.
They are safe and effective.
I signed a thing that said I can't sue them. Yes. And I understand that. So ponder that together and see if you have a Kaiser Soze moment where you drop your teacup.
It's Kaiser Soze. That's great. Where you just realize, oh my God, it's not Kobayashi. It's Kaiser Soze.
It happens to be every goddamn day on the show.
But it's very easy. It's not like there's a long trail. Look at us over here too as well. Very hard for me. This is the big door. This is Dr. Birx too as well.
She's always got a scarf because I think it's like one of those scary stories from when you're a kid. Like if you take it off, her head falls off.
Yeah, she's all right. So she's the new CEO of biotech. She was the one that was standing next to Dr. Fauci during the whole thing. Got so many things wrong. This is her. Well, even though she got so many things wrong, guess what happens in the United States when you work for the big pharma of the government? When you do something wrong, if you take that plunge and you show you have guts to go there and bullshit the people, you get raised.
It's an audition.
Dude,
I never dreamed how much it works like when I got into comedy and slowly began to understand the purpose, because I'm an idiot that's like into doing stand-up, that's supposed to be your springboard the hell out of that. And you got to demonstrate, how can I be packaged and either help in some sort of marketing or be sold as a product? And all these people, you watch him, they're all doing Hotez did his auditions.
Yeah.
For years. He wore his bow tie. He's like a prop comic.
Yeah.
And I mean, she is her infamous scarves. They all have their little thing they do so you remember them, and then they sell. They look, I could sell anything. And they work the same way.
Yeah. Well, she's now the new CEO, despite everything she got wrong on a daily basis in the United States when it came to the COVID-19. But remember, I want to remind everybody the COVID vaccine is safe and effective. It works. And the FDA says go right ahead with it. So
yeah, who is James Corden? How did he end up here hosting a show? A late night show. James Corden.
Yeah. Is he the fat one?
Yeah, they pay like that guy's perfect for the kind of.
He's the one who did and Anthony Fauci danced.
Yeah, it turns out he's like
with Ariana Grande, and
I never heard a good story about him. I worked with a bunch of British comedy writers. No one's got a good story about him.
that dude.
But he's the perfect guy. All these people like that, a perfect kind of human blank though, is ambitious.
Yes.
And you're willing to play. They call it play the game. You got to play the game, right? What am I going to not play the game and not make money and do whatever? So maybe some of them start out with a thing of like, I'll nudge Biden to the left, AOC style.
Yeah.
And you realize you just want to stay in the club.
By the way, that word nudge is taking on a new meaning right here. I think since you used it, nudge has been used for everything now out there in the mainstream.
It's really gone. Well, I heard it from the. I mean, it covers
you were
a
like
wide
nudge.
range.
You were big on it, and it just taken off. And it's kind of funny too when you're talking about the whole comic thing, because that has to be something that when people say you got to play ball, where you're in it, that's very much.
Is that the hill you want to die on, Craig?
But that's the same thing.
We got to wrap up. Is this the hill you want to die on?
No.
Hey, come see us on Live on Tour. We're doing a show in New York City, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Stamford, Connecticut, Toledo, Rochester, Michigan. That's just outside of Detroit. St. Louis, Tampa, Florida, Boca Raton, Florida, and Orlando, Florida. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.